I mean, that was another thing that happened since we recorded is TikTok went away and then it came back. Welcome to My God a Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I review Georgia's 2024 season. We talk about what stood out to us, a few current events, and we answer questions from you, our listeners. As always, remember to check out the newly redesigned MyGottaPodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at MyGottaPodcast. Finally, if you need help with your website or your online presence, head over to workingwebmedia.com/dogs. Now, let's join the conversation in progress.
Well, we're back.
We are back.
It feels good to be back too, Jim. It's nice to get on the recording machine and talk through some things.
It's like, are we doing this? How do we do this? Do you remember how to do this?
What do I do with my hands?
What do I do with my hands? What do I do with my hands?
I tell you what I am going to do with my hands. I'm going to drink the bourbon that I have in my cup.
Nice segue into the bourbon segment. What is in your cup?
Um, I am drinking a Four Roses single barrel strength from my local shop, Hops Grain and Vine. I feel like I might have mentioned this on one of the episodes back in late fall. But this is a bottle that they have been waiting on um, for a while. The owner told me about it a while back, and I said, "Ooh," because I missed out on it last time he had it
Mm,
because they sold out like in a week. Um,
gotcha. Yeah, you did mention that. I think you mentioned that when we were talking, maybe Christmas for Gail,
yeah,
maybe.
it was around that time I was waiting for it. It was like an any moment situation. And I think that I was expecting it and it was going
Mm.
to be like a Christmas present to myself. Um, but I ended up getting another bottle of their other store pick, which was the High West
Mm.
Syrah finished bourbon, which is fantastic. And he does have some left, and I'm debating about going over and buying the rest of it.
Nice.
Um, this one is fantastic. It is, if you are not familiar, and Jim, I don't know how familiar you are with the Four Roses situation, but when you buy a single barrel, a barrel select, and frankly, you could get it in off the shelf in a single barrel or whatever, but they have recipe formats that usually start with the letter O. Are you familiar with this? Like this particular one that I have from Hops, for example, is OBSF.
Okay,
Does that
I'm not familiar.
Okay,
And
well,
like,
then we're gonna have a little education
and,
because I also was curious about some of these things. I know a little bit about them based on what I can see in the recipe, but we'll have a little fun facts episode on bourbon or fun facts segment.
off the cuff,
Off the cuff.
JP's
Yeah.
fun facts about Four Roses.
About the Four Roses. Yes. Okay. So I was curious about this as well. So it was kind of selfish in my own regard because I was wanting to learn a little bit about myself, about what I'm drinking. So if you have Four Roses, they will all the rest it's a recipe, OBSF. They have OESV, OESF, OBSV, OESO. Like there's a whole bunch of them. I think there's like I want to say there's like 10 Four Roses single barrel recipes. And you can actually buy, if you're curious, you can actually buy, like they have a little box set situation that you can purchase that has little mini bottles of everything. So you can like have a little sampling of every recipe that they have available to them. So the code of what those letters mean um, is as follows. So every recipe starts with the letter O.
Mhm.
And this is why I kind of got into it. It's like, why is everything O? I never don't really understand that. So the O is where it is distilled. So it is distilled in Four Roses Distillery. You may ask yourself, what does that have to do with Four Roses, the letter O?
Mhm.
Four Roses was originally called Old Prentice Distillery, and when it was built in 1910. So the O is the reference for that is distilled at Four Roses. Spoiler alert, every recipe is O, and this is just how they do this. So
Oh,
the first letter is always O.
oh, sorry. Continue.
Yeah. Yeah. So the second letter is going to be an indication of which mash bill it is built off of.
Hmm.
They have a B or an E. The B mash bill is their high rye mash bill, which is I think 35% rye, 5% malted barley, and that is the one that I have. I have OB SF, and then we'll get to the S. So you either have B or E, and then the third letter is always S for the distillate, which is straight bourbon whiskey.
Okay.
Um, so that yeah, it just means that that's it's straight bourbon whiskey that you're getting.
Right.
And then the last letter is one of the ones that varies the most, and that is going to be indicative of the five different yeast strains that they use for each of the different recipes. Those letters are as follows. The letter V, which this is all coming from Four Roses. I don't know if there's any funny changing of all this, but this is kind of like how they defined it, right?
Yeah.
V gives notes of delicate fruit. K has slight spice, and O has fruit flavors. Q has a floral essence, and F imparts minty herbal notes. So I have the O, Four Roses, B, high rye mash bill, S, straight bourbon, F, which is the minty herbal notes. So
Hmm.
this is a rye forward bourbon. And if you are the type of person that enjoys the rye whiskeys, you will probably enjoy this bourbon. If you're a type of person that enjoys scotch, you will probably enjoy this bourbon.
So it's a
Um,
little like hotter.
so it's a single barrel. This is,
Yeah.
I think this one is 119 proof. So this specific one is, it's an 11-year, 5 months whiskey. So which
Yeah.
is actually part of the reason I wanted to get it because it was over 10 years,
Gotcha.
um, and under 12 years, which, Weller 12,
Hmm.
the Eagle Rares, those are 10-year bourbons. This is, Russell's Reserve, those Russell's 13. Um, so anyway, like older whiskeys tend to be, better,
Yeah. Yeah.
generally speaking. But yeah, this one is 119 proof, which is another, it's not too hot. It's not too hot, definitely not too weak.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, rye whiskeys typically are basically gasoline, in my opinion, but
Yeah.
your mileage may vary on how you feel about
Yeah.
that. But yeah, that's uh that's a quick that's a quick rundown on on the uh on the recipes. The flavor profile for the one that I've purchased, full flavored, viscous with prominent notes of mint, spice, and berry is the exact recipe. And each one of them has different ones that are associated with it. Like for example, OESV. I feel like Hunter, if you're listening, find yourself in OESV. The tasting notes on that are round and sweet with notes of caramel, stone fruit, and pear.
Mm. Yeah. I need to try that one. Hunter and I have like the same bourbon palette.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You might also enjoy OBSK, baking spice, aroma, sweet vanilla, and cherry on the palate. Very forward. Might be
Okay.
a nice Christmas one. But yeah, there's a whole. I'll send this to you separately, Jim.
Yeah.
There's a whole list of the flavor profiles, tasting notes, or whatever. The I guess that the squirreling of that is going to come with, these are like the baseline, I guess is kind of what I would describe.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with a barrel strength single barrel, every single barrel is going to be unique
Yeah.
depending on how it's aged, all the different factors that go into, what makes a bourbon, and particularly a single barrel bourbon, what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this one was distilled on March 21st, 2013. It was barreled April 18th, 2013, and it was bottled September 18th, 2024,
Gotcha.
which
Nice.
is crazy to think about, but this bottle of bourbon is older than one of my children. So two of my children.
That is crazy. Man, now I kind of wish I had a Four Roses so I could read off the things, but I don't. I have
Yeah.
I went the Maker's Mark 46 French oaked. So an old faithful of mine.
I at the same time I bought this, I bought one of those because I was out and frankly, I want to savor the good bourbons that I have. And so,
Yeah.
well, not that 46 is bad, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I tend to want to savor the nice ones. And then the ones that I could easily get off the shelf are my daily drivers. And I did get a bottle of Maker's 46.
Yeah, it's a great daily one. No, I'm the same way. I was like debating because found the Midwinter Nights Dram uh back around Christmas-ish time. But I had to pour another one of those when it snowed because Hunter inspired me with his picture of his bottle in the snow. And so I recreated that with much less snow than he had. Um, but yeah, so otherwise trying not to drink off of that one so much.
Just to wrap a bow around the overall Four Roses conversation, you may be asking yourself, like, I have a Four Roses bourbon in my bar.
Yeah.
Um, I wonder which recipe it is. I just have the regular Four Roses, etc. There is a breakdown of what those would consist of. So the Four Roses, the flagship, um, the Four Roses bourbon is a blend of all 10 recipes
Mm,
and it's aged for a minimum of 5 years. So that's just the regular Four Roses bourbon.
gotcha.
Fantastic, fantastic bourbon. You can buy it in a handle. My neighbors and I have talked about that is a great bourbon, kind of like the Maker's Mark, handle or whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's just a good bourbon, right?
Yeah.
Woodford Reserve, these are bourbons that everybody can find. You don't have to pay a ton of money on for a good bourbon.
Yeah.
That's why I've stressed less about bottle chasing because I've just been able to find really good bourbon that I don't have to beg, borrow, and steal and
Yeah.
put a down payment on or take a second mortgage out to buy that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, there's Four Roses small batch. That is going to be the next level up. Usually comes in like an oval bottle, and I think it usually has like a light brown label on it. That is a blend of four specific recipes: OBSK, OBSO, and OESK.
Mm,
Or OESK and OESO. Those are the four recipes that particular blend matches up with.
gotcha.
I personally don't enjoy that one. Even though it's a higher price point, I don't typically enjoy that one for me, but you may like it. The next step up is the small batch select, which I love,
Yeah. That one's
and
really
do
good.
enjoy. That is one of the bottles that I have for one of the custom labels that I had made
Mm,
from Four Roses, for the 2021 National Championship that I kind of refill from time to time.
yeah.
That one is, oh, and the small batches aged for 6 to 7 years, just to, give you context on the aging profiles and why they are what they are. Small batch select is the non-chill filtered 104 proof. So each step up usually is a higher proof, and that's part of the reason why it's more expensive. Um, that bourbon's aged for 6 to 7 years as well, and it uses 6 different recipes: OBSV, OBSK, OBSF, OESV, OESK, and OESF. Um, so it is a little bit different than the small batch. So that's probably why I prefer the small batch select, because the combination of the four bourbons that they have. And that's, people joke like, hey, why are you mixing bourbons? Oh, I've never thought about mixing bourbons. Well, the
Mm,
distilleries do it themselves.
right.
Um, when it's called a batch bourbon, it's because they have batched it together out of multiple different bourbons that they make themselves. So if you are drinking a Four Roses small batch and you're the type of person that says, "Oh, I never mix my bourbons," well, you're literally drinking a bourbon suicide drink.
Nice.
Um, And then the single barrel, obviously that's what we were just talking about. Oh, the single barrel that I have is a barrel select, but you can buy a Four Roses single barrel. I guess it's like the distillery version of, what they consider their single barrel.
Hmm.
Um, it is not blended and just uses one recipe, hence the single barrel. And every bottle comes in at 100 proof, and it is a 7 to 9 year old OBSV. So if you have drank a Four Roses single barrel, you are drinking an OBSV. So if you like that, that
Yeah.
is the recipe.
Got it. Yeah, and I have that for sure. So that's also good. I like that.
There you go.
Nice.
And then you can go up from there. There's other stuff like the barrel strength. That's the one that I have. Obviously, there's 10 different recipes. They have the Four Roses limited edition. And that's where things get even more complex. But typically, it's going to be the OESV or the OESK or the OBSV. And those are all like 12 to 16 year age profiles, a 14-year, and then the OBSV one that I was talking about is a 25-year. So they have all those different combinations as well. So
Nice.
that limited edition, those are the ones that are, the coveted bottles for Four Roses, like the Weller 12, if you will, of Four Roses.
Right. Right. Cool, man. Cool. JP's fun bourbon facts.
Yeah, fun bourbon facts. John, if I missed anything, feel free to correct me in the comments.
Nice. And like and subscribe.
Yeah, and he's back, by the way,
He's back. John is back.
as of recording time.
Uh, yeah. John Treat Sports. He's back. Was he ever really gone? These are the questions we're all asking. Um, let's see. Much has happened since we last talked.
There's been a lot that's happened in the college football world.
So
Really? Are you sure?
yeah,
I mean,
much has
Georgia lost their last game, so I don't know what else happened after that.
yeah. It was kind of like,
I kind of blacked out.
is there more happening since then? So let's see. The last time we had an episode, the semis hadn't even happened yet, right? So I think it was like we recorded like that week where yes, because remember you were like, wait, they play Thursday, like that week when it was happening. Um,
Yeah.
I will say like I feel like they could probably rework the schedule a bit of this expanded playoff. Went a little too late in the calendar for my taste, although it sounds like that's not happening. I guess other news and note, I think they already announced the game of like the year after next. I think it's gonna be Vegas, like even later. So I think I could be getting that wrong. Whatever. But so yeah, I don't know. It's here to stay. It is what it is. Um,
Yeah, what is the is it Stephen A. Smith, his famous line, "We do not care."
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I definitely I wanted to be wrong. I feel like unfortunately, I feel like I was kind of right on the regular season thing, but like being diminished. But I got to get over it. Like they're not going to change it back. So I think
It is a
it.
different sport now, Jim.
Yeah, it's different. It's different. So yeah. So
This is the first year of like I feel like that this past year was when people talk about like the live ball era for baseball or whatever,
hmm
like I don't know what the name for this era is going to be for college football, but like you have the pre-forward pass or modern football or whatever,
yeah,
like
yeah,
you
yeah.
have the NCAA restrictions, and then you have the brief period of time where it was the NIL era, and now it is the NFL light era
Hmm. Yeah.
or the NFL minor leagues. However, I feel like that's the thing. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
the team that spent the most money, and frankly, also I guess the something that's happened is the it's come out that Ohio State lost more than 30 something million dollars.
Like that, and that was like last year, by the way. I was
Oh,
listening to some
okay.
about that. So that wasn't this year. So we'll have to wait until those numbers come out. Um, a year later, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but yeah, I listened to some about that today, and they caveated or whatever called out that that was last year, which I didn't realize from whatever tweet I read that on. Um,
I read it on the internet, Jim.
Yes, so it's obviously true. You didn't get it from DeepSeek, hopefully. Sorry. um,
Oh man.
but yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Team who did not advance to their conference championship game won the first 12 team playoff, and that's kind of it is what it is. I don't like that. I think it's interesting too, like that none of the top four seeds even made the semifinals. So there will be, I expect, tweaks next year. Um, and then there'll probably be bigger changes after the following year. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. I imagine that those changes are going to be just adding more teams, Jim.
Yeah, I think I could see auto bids, not auto buys, getting rid of the auto buys. I could see that being a thing. So we'll
I
see.
don't know. I guess the biggest thing from my perspective, looking back, um, I watched the NFL, and this is going to be somewhat pivoting to some other topics, but I watched the NFL playoffs. I've been watching the NFL playoffs a little bit here and there.
Mm,
Um, it is definitely interesting to see, the conference championships in a world where it is very important to win different components of your regular season and to get home field advantage and all these kinds of different things for the
mm,
NFL playoffs.
yeah.
It's interesting that the NFL, if we're the NFL light, they, you had the Bills had to go to Arrowhead Stadium to play Patrick Mahomes in
Mm,
front of their home crowd.
yeah.
I think that is a spiking the football, to use a football phrase. That is a spiking the football to college football to play these games, all of them, up
Mm,
until up until the national championship game on college campuses.
yeah.
Um, you want to do bowl games, great. Anything that's outside of the college football playoff is reserved for the bowl games. I feel that vehemently. I don't care about the Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, like all those different traditions. You can still do those things just outside the CFP, and that's just the reality of what we're working with now. I think that if you make the CFP, it should be a rewarded system
Mm,
where you get to play as the higher ranked team. You get to play on college campuses. Um,
yeah.
that's just how I feel about it. I agree with Josh on one thing. So Josh, don't say I don't ever agree with you on anything. Play
Nice.
college football games on college campuses and play them on Saturdays, period.
No disagreements from me. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, I could rant for a very long time about that. The fact that we had to travel to New Orleans to deal with all of the things that we had to deal with in that situation. None of us would be immune from similar things if they were asked to go to, you know, the Rose Bowl or
Mm,
whatever. Those are all great experiences, and I know that those of you that went to the Rose Bowl, it's a magical experience and all that kind of stuff. But just imagine if we did all that in Athens.
yeah. Rose Bowl is magical. I'm one of those people. I do agree with that. I know there are some that say like just have the national championship be the Rose Bowl every year. It's warm. It's a historic setting.
I don't agree with that because it's an outdoor stadium. Um, I
Mm,
think that the premier game for the sport should be, you know,
indoors.
indoors,
Yeah.
protected from elements. Because imagine playing a national championship game in the mud. Like
Right.
you harken back to NFL films and the Super Bowl
Right.
being played in the mud or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I
That's
think that
fair.
I think it should be a controlled environment that eliminates all BS.
Yeah.
As much BS, I
Yeah.
guess is what I should say.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I generally feel the same way. Um, I guess the only thing I was going to add to the kind of the whole playoff and just to kind of on the whole season thing, like this is the season review after all. Um,
Yes.
when we did our episode with Nathan and Yara, shout out Chapel Bell Curve. Um, I think it was Nathan that at one point like kind of stopped us and like, what is a successful season for Georgia? And and this was like during the second bye week, I think, when we talked to them. Um, and I mean, to me, make the quarterfinal, make a quarterfinal of the college football playoff. I define that as successful. I think it might. I can't remember exactly what I said. I think I might have even just said make the playoff. I think Yara was like win it all or something. But like,
National championship or bust,
right,
baby.
right. But I mean, I feel like especially considering the schedule we had, we lost our quarterback in the SEC championship game, all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, I don't think there's anything to like hang your head about. There's things you can be frustrated about. Sure, everyone is. I know the team is as frustrated, if not more, than we are by the way it ended. But overall,
People
successful
are
season.
frustrated. People are frustrated about the
Yeah.
season, Jim.
Oh yeah. Yes, John.
I thought everybody was happy.
With the way it ended, the way it ended. Although that's where I had kind of decided I was pulling for Notre Dame. I'll say that when it got to the last game. Um, I was kind of the we can say we lost the team that won it all kind of thing. It was kind of where I had
I
ended with
was
it
in the I want James Franklin to lose camp.
in that game. Yeah, yeah. And then when it,
I do like Marcus Freeman.
I do too.
He seems like a good dude.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. So yeah,
Except when he's dancing on the sidelines,
right, right,
beating my team.
right. Agreed.
Then he's dead to me,
Yeah,
much like Stacy Searles is.
yeah. So yeah, but like I said, I feel like it's a successful season. Made the first 12 team playoff, earned a bye in the first 12 team playoff. You know, could have gone further, didn't, but
I think
I call it a success.
yeah, I think that you know, a famous coach once said that, winning the SEC championship should be the goal of every Georgia football team.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you win the SEC championship, the chances of you being in the national conversation of playing for more, overwhelmingly is greater than if you don't win the SEC championship. Ohio State, frankly, was, kind of in that vein. I mean, they had to really battle through. I mean, if you go and
Mhm.
look at the schedule that they had to get through to win what they won, like they deserved to win the national championship. Um, I think that your mileage may vary on how you feel about how they got there,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
since they did get there, they did beat a lot of teams, and they beat a lot of good teams in order on their you know scorched earth to get to the title.
yeah,
They had the harder draw as a result of their own failings in the regular season, which I know, Jim, you and I kind of agree that under normal circumstances, they would not even have sniffed a expanded postseason before the 12-team playoff.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because they didn't run their conference, and they lost to an unranked Michigan team.
What's that? What's that Venn diagram where like Ohio State is the only they're the first college football national champion that didn't win their conference, lost to their rival, and lost to an unranked team. That had never happened before.
Yeah.
So it is weird. But I want to be clear. Like my issues are with the system itself, not with the application. Like I have no issue with the committee. I have no issue with who got in. I have no issue with the seedings based on the format. I actually think they got all that right, personally. I have no issues. I think again, I think the teams getting a bye because they won their conference, it made it lopsided and it made the bracket weird. So I
It
would,
overcomplicated things.
it did. I would get rid of that. Like I said, I would get rid of that. I would just say seed it how they're like. If you want to say they're in, cool, but
Great.
that
And
shouldn't
then
jump them up to a 3 seed or a 4 seed.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
rejigger everything after the first round.
So there's some mechanical things I would change, but like, but again, this year of like the application of the system, no, I have no issues like with how it was set up. I felt like they actually followed their process, which I actually thought was pretty cool, honestly. I didn't 100% believe they would do that. I felt like they would manipulate stuff to get matchups, and I actually feel like they didn't. So, I thought that was a good job.
Yeah.
Cool. Um,
For what it was, we got what we were advertised.
yes. Yes. That's fair. That's a good way to put it.
You want to play off? Here's your stinking playoff.
Yeah.
Although nobody asked for a 12-team playoff, to be fair. Like at least most people that I know
Yeah.
would have been happy with six because as we saw throughout the season,
Yeah.
there were not six elite teams.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, I agree. I think 6 would have been enough. 8 would have made sense. 12 was kind of out of nowhere to me.
What was Ohio State ranked going into the playoff? Were they ranked six?
Let's see, ranked. So they were the 8 seed. So yeah, they would have been ranked 6 because they were the 2 teams that jumped because of
Okay.
Ohio. So yeah, yep.
So
So
they would still would have been
they would have
in
been
the
the last team
16
then
playoff.
in a
Yeah.
16 play. Yeah, yeah,
I would have been
yep,
fine with that. I feel like that frankly should have been the cutoff,
yeah, yeah.
which would have had what Georgia playing the sixth seed because
Technically,
we were the number one seed, right? Or were we
we
the
were
number two
no, we
seed?
were 2. We were
Two.
2.
Okay.
So we would have had if you did a 16, you would have had a bye. So one would play the winner of what 3 and 5, or no, yes, and then
Visualizing.
2 would play the winner of, or 2 would play. Sorry, 1 would play the winner of 3 and 6, and then 2 would play the winner of
There you go.
whatever. It's close enough.
Somewhere Josh is screaming at his
Yeah, I'm like I need to make a bracket. I need to write this
yeah.
down and make it make sense.
I'm a visual learner, Jim.
Uh, um, I guess the other thing that hadn't happened, like that happened after the season, but before the playoffs, but I guess it was right after we recorded, was Mr. Carson Beck. Uh, is I guess the last time we recorded, he was declared for the NFL. Um, obviously never submitted his paperwork, and then into the portal he goes and is off to shocking Miami. His girlfriend, if you don't know, plays basketball at Miami right now. Pretty sure she'll be out of college eligibility, but I don't know. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not. Reportedly, lots of NIL money um, tied to that. So I don't know. Best wishes, Mr. Beck, back to his home state of Florida.
Who?
Yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with this person, Jim.
Apparently, so is the Georgia football video team. Uh, if you didn't notice, the season highlight reel that came out from the official account, I didn't see. There's not like a frame of Carson Beck. That was you can say a lot without any words, and that was a lot.
Yeah. I mean, a lot was said in many words by some of the players in the lead up to, the festivities of the postseason.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah. Um, Whatever. I don't wish any ill will on anyone, but if you don't want to be here, pack your bags, you're out of here.
yeah. I mean,
Adios. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. And you're clearly in it for the wrong reasons. But if you transfer into Georgia, it's wholesome.
wholesome people. This is the stance. You leave Georgia, you're going for the bag. If you're coming for the Georgia, right reasons, wholesome decision.
Wholesome decision. Yes.
It's all good and wholesome.
So
Man.
so what's the Ohio State kid? Is it Jeremiah? Is that Jeremiah Smith? I can't remember which one he is.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So if you want to come, it's a wholesome, good decision to come on down.
yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, again, people leave. ETN came to Georgia for the right reasons. Wanted to win a championship. Wanted to be wholesome.
Yes, exactly. And the Branch brothers,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a quality, wholesome decision.
Right reasons. Right reasons. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
We we don't have a TikTok boy.
he's gone. He's been gone. Man. Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is.
Less
This
the
is,
less TikTok boys we have on the team is probably generally speaking a not bad thing.
I mean, that was another thing that happened since we recorded is TikTok went away and then it came back.
Ah, went away for like what, 12 hours or something? Like,
Yeah, yeah. I love like everyone was posting like it's since this is gone. Here's my last TikTok, and then it was. I think you were the one that told me it was back. You're like, it's back.
yeah, I was seeing people posting pictures of their TikTok screens on Twitter.
I mean, I didn't know what I was gonna do without all my bookmarked like recipes and stuff. So I wasn't disappointed.
Ridiculous. I still haven't really fully leveraged the power of the TikToks.
That's probably a good thing.
It's kind of annoying. I'm like, I've got the reels that I know show up from TikTok from 7 weeks ago or whatever, but I don't need another social media app. And frankly, I am a little concerned about it being Chinese held. So whatever.
The algorithm's really good, man.
That's what the people say. That's what the people say, Jim. The algorithm is really good.
I don't go into Instagram
Um,
except to watch the reels that you send me, and I'm really slow at that. I apologize. I'm gonna get that out on the podcast.
it's okay.
I admit it.
Daniel Smith and I ping pong the reels back and forth.
Amazing, amazing. Shout out, brothers know the best. Also back, also back. New episodes out. Like, subscribe.
Among the many others that ping pong reels back and forth.
Uh,
Um, yeah, there are videos about that, right? Like you and your buddy like
yeah,
never say a word to each other, but we're just
just sending
just,
reels back and
just
forth.
ping ponging reels back and forth.
So good, so good. All right, well, why don't we hit the listener questions, and then if we have anything else we want to wrap a bow on, we can do that
Yeah, I
live.
think
But
we've got some listener questions that are going to tie into some other things that I would probably want to talk about. So
okay, all right, cool. We can do that. Let's see. Let's remind everyone: listener questions are brought to you by Working Web Media. If you're listening and you hear us talk about Working Web Media every episode, but you're not really sure what the deal is, just do me a favor. Head over to workingwebmedia.com/dogs. Check it out. See what they've got there to offer you. Maybe you've got a small business. Maybe you need some help with your online presence. They can help you with all these things. And they're a small, family-owned business as well. So shout out Working Web Media. Definitely appreciate everything you do for us. I've mentioned they've redid our website. You can go check it out. You can check out the merch store. We got the new koozies out. Those have been a hit. So go check those out. But yeah, definitely appreciate all the support from the folks over at Working Web Media. All right, let's see. First up, we have Brett Belding and the Belding bonus TM TM TM. Number one, why do you think we haven't seen any coaching changes? Um,
do you want to take the first?
I think everyone should be prepared for the possibility that it's because there aren't going to be any. That's a possibility. The other one is even if there are, I'm not really surprised there haven't been any yet. I would wait until after the late signing day before anything happened. There's also a whole coaching carousel. NFL is winding down. Yet coaches could be leaving the NFL staffs, etc. So there'll be more shifting just in general.
Yeah, I would say didn't was it John that sent us a breakdown of the timelines and how that worked?
Mm, I don't remember, but I
Um,
know someone did. Like how, like in the past, like when certain things happened.
yeah, in one of our text threads, in one of the text threads that we're on, I'm pretty sure it was John shared out like basically a framework of how the schedule sets up
Mm,
in relation to how the calendar sets up for when and how long you have access to contacting recruits on the road, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that actually like made a lot of sense. Because if you were like me, you expected from day one that, Mike Bobo, you're out or whatever, or Stacy Searles, you're fired or whatever. I can't find I was trying to pull up the text, but basically it was something along the lines of, you only have a certain number of days where you can be on the road before the dead periods start, and
Mhm.
where you have spring practice start when the soft dead period is. And so like all that netted out to, when we made coaching changes in the past, it's typically been after the signing period.
Yeah.
And you could interpret that a number of different ways, but based on how the calendar sets up and how long you have, like, you basically need coaches on the road in January
Mhm.
doing the in-home visits, doing as much, glad handing and NILing, if you will. Um,
New word for
doing
lexicon. NILing.
doing as much of the recruiting as possible in this period that you are allowed to do it. And if you are hiring a new coach, that means that new coach has to come in and establish these new relationships really fast.
Mhm.
And it's a risk that I feel like that our head coach, who is risk averse in many ways, or at least is trying to be more calculated about stuff. I feel like hedges these bets against that. It's better to have people on the road recruiting that know the kids, that know our system, that know what we're doing, that know our goals, all these different things, so that the ramp up period for new coaches is not quite as critical.
Yeah.
Um, it's more important, and Kirby Smart even addressed some of this in recent press conferences, that as much as everybody wants to think that the coach has a lot to do with the decisions, and not to say that he doesn't, but money seems to be what makes the decisions lately anyway. So the fact that you are putting yourself in a situation where you're adding variables on things that may or may not ultimately matter, is probably, you know, like I said, if you were a gambling person, you go with the odds, and the odds are that you just kind of roll with the roll with who brung you here
Hmm.
until you don't need to. And some of that may be netted out with, most of our coaches are probably going to be going to promotion situations, or, you know, like to the NFL, for example, or in the case of, um, you know, head coaching jobs, all those kinds of things in
Yeah.
college football. So those things haven't been settled yet because the NFL is still playing, and not a whole lot of premier jobs are open in the college world. So all that to say that I think that it has a lot more to do with the schedule that they've been given
Hmm.
than we probably would want to admit.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree.
But to your point, like, if changes are going to happen, I think what the message, he kind of outlined a couple of, like, this is what happened in the recent past. Like, Todd Monken wasn't hired until after the signing period, for example.
Yeah. 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 For
He
sure.
didn't leave until after the signing period.
Right. Right.
So
Yep.
anyway,
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm with you. Um, let's see. Second part. What is Bobo going to do to run the dang ball more than our opponents next season? The running back room underperformed for the first time in years.
yeah, I think Bubby had a question about that as well.
Let's pull that up. I think you're right. Let's see.
He,
Bubby.
he he actually put some data behind it too.
Yeah,
I
let's
was
pull.
impressed.
Yeah, let's pull that up. Let's see. I'm gonna. Okay.
How's it possible?
Yeah, how's it possible that the Dogs were a 102nd in nation in the rushing yard per game in 2024 after being 21st in 2023 and 19th in 2022? With the expected improvement from Florida and Auburn in 2025, could the Dogs' schedule be as tough next year? 2020. Oh, no, that's a kind of additional stuff. Um, but yeah, okay. I think it's a couple of things. I was worried about this running back room coming into the season. I'll say that. Um, and I just felt like the depth wasn't there. And I feel like that's kind of ended up how it played out. Like we had good top end talent. ETN was great, but he got hurt. Um, Frazier, freshman, right? So that will help at least him being a sophomore next year. But then like our depth pieces of the Robinsons, um, both were coming off injury and then continued to have injury issues throughout the year. So I think that, and then also offensive line struggles. So I don't know. I don't know that it's so much what Bobo was gonna do, other than your buddy. Maybe other than I think it's can our backs that we have stay healthy, and what's your buddy Stacy gonna do? No, that's my take.
I think you also probably can't ignore the Del McGee impact there, right?
Wow, that's fair.
But as I just was talking through, like performance is not a coaching is not as heavily impacted by coaching in general, but that sharp of a drop off to me is indicative of why ETN was brought in, because
Hmm.
probably would have been in a significantly worse situation had he not been brought in.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, think about that. Think of those years that Bubby said 22 and 23. I mean, you've got Dejon. In 2022, you had Kenny McIntosh, Dejon Edwards, Kendall Milton. Like you had all three of those guys.
yeah, you just hit on something that I was just about to talk through as well. Um, we Kenny McIntosh is going to go down as one of the most important components of our teams. James Cook,
Mm-hmm.
is in that vein as well.
Yeah.
James Cook probably is going to be one of the most underrated players in the history of Georgia. Like, I feel like that he's going to be one of those guys that just doesn't have the like he's not going to be like a Herschel or
Mm-hmm.
Hines Ward or anything like that, but he's having a big impact at the next level and very clearly was a part of what we had going on in our world.
Yeah.
So you have all these different personnel changes that have happened over time. We talk about, and it's been very. I feel like the Brock Bowers situation has been way more amplified because of what he did on the field at Georgia that was so like abundantly obvious. Whereas like the people that we're talking about, James Cook, Dejan Edwards, all those guys, those guys were you know not as prominently like popular. I guess I don't know, lack of a better description, but like we harp on the drop off at the wide receiver position and our receiving stats,
Yeah.
and Lad McConkey and Brock Bowers were a part of that.
Mm.
Same things have happened in the personnel department for UGA. I feel like that we have had the short end of the stick on the injury front. Like we just, man, I don't know if those guys are ever gonna pan out. I hate to say that, but they haven't really made an impact yet.
Yeah. I mean, it happens, right? I mean,
But we hear about it. We hear about like the spring that Branson Robinson has had. Like
yeah.
I was stoked to finally see what the fully operational battle station looks like,
Yeah.
because he's been described as the battle station.
Right.
Um,
I mean, think
so
about like Kendall Milton when it was like that doesn't look like Kendall Milton anymore, and then it's like it at the end of last year, like all of a sudden he did. It's like it makes a huge difference, like health.
oh my gosh, like don't get me don't,
Sorry. Move on.
don't go to the draft, guys. Stop going to the draft.
Yeah, no, seriously. Uh, okay. Let's see. Brett said he ended with a side note. The G is still on the hashtag as of January 27th when he said that. I do believe we're recording on January 29th. I believe the Power G is gone on that
Oh,
Twitter
is it?
hashtag
I haven't
now.
even noticed.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that when I looked at his tweet today when I was pulling together the notes. I didn't see it on there. So
I guess Elon finally pulled himself out of uh his Doge responsibilities to eliminate our Go Dogs.
must have. All right, let's see. Next up, we got Bobby Wilson. Bobby
It is
says,
gone, by
yeah,
the way.
yeah, it's gone. It's gone.
Dang it.
Bobby says, love your podcast on YouTube. So reminder, you could be like Bobby and watch us and see us on YouTube if you wish, instead of listening in the audio form. Either way is fine. Um, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see I do have a new hat. You see I don't know if you saw my new hat, John. I
I
have a
did
new
see your new hat.
SEC champions hat. So I wanted to celebrate it. So arrived this week.
You can see our beautiful shining faces on the YouTubes. We don't do a good enough, we don't do a great job of splicing up the videos like some other podcasts do and posting them on the socials. But I have found multiple podcasts through their little quick videos on social media. So maybe we should do that. But I also like watching some people on YouTube, and there's probably other podcasts that I would watch on YouTube too. I just don't know that they're out there, but we are on YouTube.
Fair enough. Let's see. Questions for Bobby. Number one, what was the best thing about our 2024 season, and what was the worst? I mean, I think the best thing is we won the SEC championship.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I
think
mean,
that we won the SEC championship. The way that we won the SEC championship was
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Like it took everybody, like I gave up, you did too.
dudes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Seriously, in back-to-back games, by the way, because I had that same feeling against Tech,
Yeah.
but
Fortunately, that game didn't matter, Jim.
oh man, yeah, seriously. Um,
What was the worst? Um, for me, the worst was the feeling at the end of the Notre Dame game that
mm,
when it was obvious that we were going to lose the game. Like we talk about win probability on here when the win probability swung in like the 99.9%
mm,
phase. And that was the worst part for me because I personally think that if we play that game 9 times out of 10, we beat them, or we play that game 10 times, we beat them 9 times out of 10. And it just so happens that we played one of our worst games in the worst time possible.
yeah. Um, I mean, I guess to use, I'm just gonna not. I'm gonna say something else. That's probably it for me too. But I'm gonna say something else. Um, it's probably like the aftermath of the Ole Miss game, um, because of the way it felt at the time. Like it felt like that had eliminated us from the SEC championship game at the time. It seemed like a logical thing, and then it took all that chaos to get back to it. So at the time, that was probably the worst. Although actually that's not even true. The thing that felt the worst to me in the very moment was the moment where I thought we had lost to Georgia Tech. Um, like when they scored their last touchdown of regulation, like it was over and I sat there until Dan Jackson caused that fumble. I was just sitting there coming to terms with the fact that we were losing, we were going to lose. When we scored the touchdown before Dan Jackson caused the fumble, I didn't even like clap. Like people were cheering and I just looked up at Kim and I was like, too late. So doesn't matter. I just thought I was in a bad spot. Um,
Dark place.
I was in a dark place, dude. But then when Dan Jackson caused that fumble, it was just like I just like sprung back to life and was like freaking out and was just like dirty Dan. So like that was kind of like worst to amazing. Like that flip of the switch was crazy for me. So
The Undertaker gif in live form.
yes,
Um,
exactly. That's
that's
good.
funny. You're like you're like Lloyd Christmas and Dumb and Dumber like "Oh, we're gonna lose to Notre Dame.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Just dry heaving.
yeah,
All right, we're gonna lose to Georgia Tech.
yeah.
Um, I'm gonna change my answer
Okay,
on the best part.
okay.
Um, as we were talking through it, like honestly, like when I look back at this season, like what do I think about? Like, yes, the games were great, but honestly, like I, the best thing about this season was that I got to enjoy tailgating in Athens a
Mm,
lot.
yeah,
I think back on the conversations that I've had with Kelsey at Hug Dog's house. Um, I think back on conversations that I've had with people, various people, Chuck, talking about bacon, um, or the bacon candy, all the different interaction points that we've had at the tailgate are things that I actually like remember more vividly than even some components of the games themselves. Um,
Yeah.
we talk about we talk about you only have so many Saturdays to do this and to do it with people that you enjoy. I got to bring Carter, up for several games. Didn't get to bring some of the other folks in the family, but next time.
Yeah.
But getting to go to those games, shout out to the friends that have, you know, coach gave me tickets for one of the games that we went to. Um, that was a good that was the best thing for the 2024 season for me was all the things that we get to do that are, you know, meaningful, that are wrapped in the pageantry that is college football.
Mm, well said. Well say. I'll second that. I'll second that. All right. Second one from Bobby. What is your honest feelings on NIL and the portal now, and how will this impact Georgia's ability to remain dominant? I'll hang up and listen. LOL. We always appreciate the hang up and listen sign off. Um, I don't know. I guess we kind of talked about it earlier. Honestly, I think where you said like when you're doing the recruiting and everything, like it's the money. I mean, I don't know. That's about as straightforward as I can get on my honest feelings about it.
NIL is a problem. It is a virus that has infected our sport, and I definitely think that it was. I don't know that I would jump so far as to say it was needed. It was inevitable, um, based on how our culture, you know, sets up. Um, the NCAA did it to themselves by treating people the way that they treated them. Um, so I guess that it was set up that way, but NIL needs to be reined in. We're very, very quickly approaching contracts. NIL and the portal are hand in hand. The portal definitely needs to be controlled because as a result of NIL, you are able to transfer schools in the same season that you're currently playing. That to me is just not cool. Like, you talk about tweaks to the tweaks to the system. Um,
Yeah.
bring like at this point, like, bring on the contracts, man. When Jeremiah Smith is like entertaining coming to Georgia, great, awesome. Makes me sick to my stomach to think that that's something that is truly going to happen. Um, bring on the contracts. If we're gonna give these kids 1 year deals, and you get to be a free agent every 4 years, like, what sport is that a thing?
Yeah. 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 I'm with you.
And to not get any compensation for it, like,
Right.
we're basically buying players. Like, there's not even trades. Like, what sport are you allowed to just sign a player without compensating the team that he's playing for?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't, I don't know. It's not sustainable in my opinion.
I agree. I agree. There's got to have to be some kind of reform. And I think we've always been, when I'm trying to think of when we started. When we first started the podcast, NIL wasn't a thing. And I know we'd always talked about like yeah, like it's not even about like they shouldn't get any money. Like that's never been our stance. But it's the way it was implemented, and there's just no, I don't know, there's no regulations about it at all. You know?
When we talked about it at that time, I remember, because like one of the questions on the floor was, if I remember correctly, there was some dude who was a high school student, or there were people that before they got to college had large audiences on which they could capitalize.
Yeah.
And you couldn't do that.
Yep.
You were not allowed to do that. Name, image, likeness. What does that mean? Like, that means that you, as a player who performs at a high level should be able to capitalize on your name, image, and likeness in ways that we kind of were expecting, like the car commercial for the dealership down the road,
Yeah.
the, you know, Gatorade ad or the Nike ad for,
Yeah.
the big time players or um personal injury attorney billboard.
Yeah. Or the one
That
I,
stuff to me is what the vision for what it should have been is that I have a recognizable face. It
yep.
is worth value to someone. Let me go and market it to them.
Yep.
Not, hey, I am a five-star athlete. I'm 16 years old. Pay me money to come to your school, or I'm not going to come to your school was should never have been part of the equation
Yeah.
in that world.
Right.
And somewhere along the line, the Friday Night Lights boosters situation of the world bastardized the vision of being able to basically like we were trying to tell kids that you should be able to work and make money on your work that you're doing for the school.
Yeah.
I think that everybody would have been on board with that, that you could have, you could have taken that to the bank, but now we're talking about, okay, school, here's what is it, $25 million? Pay the players what you want to pay them.
Mm.
To me, that should never have been part of the environment.
Right. Right. Yeah, it changed a lot. And I think that the thing you were bringing, the thing that was happening back then was that like YouTuber, which he's still around, by the way,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Destroying or whatever. I don't know what his
I
actual name
mean,
is.
even the Cavender twins, like they
Yeah.
have millions of followers. Like you should be able to sell sponsorships and
Yeah.
capitalize on what you're doing. If you are a if you're a smart kid that has a Rhodes scholarship and want to go and work for a company or do an internship over the summer, like you should be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. For sure.
the fact that we were trying to tell kids that they couldn't have summer jobs and couldn't work, like stuff like that, like to me was just kind of stupid. Um, yeah, I could talk at length about the NIL situation, but now we're at a situation where we are very quickly coming up to being the minor leagues for the NFL, more so than we ever have been before. To your question about UGA's dominance, I don't know that we're ever going to see a team like Georgia was able to put together. You're not going to see. I think Josh was talking about like the 2022 team, 2021 team. Like we had like 8 5 stars that we were signing on those recruiting classes or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think what this year we have like what 4 or 5 or something like that, maybe. Like you're never going to see a team amass that amount of talent ever again, in my opinion,
Yeah.
unless someone is stroking $100 million and whatever.
Yeah. I think, you're gonna have to figure out how to adapt. Here's the only counterpoint I will say to that is although maybe NIL and the ability to make this money is what could get you away from it. But there's these three things that are all happening that are changing. You've got NIL, you've got the portal, you've got the playoff and the playoff expanding. And in one AA or FCS, their playoff is even bigger. And but that is like one or two teams that are winning it. It's like and I forget which one it is. It's either North Dakota State or South Dakota State. Like they win it like every year, and they have figured out a way to dominate even in that expanded playoff. So I'm curious if someone can figure that out. Um, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. To be determined. I think it's possible, but there's not that amount of money being thrown around at that level. So maybe that's why they've been able to do it.
I don't know. I would need to look at I haven't spent a whole lot of time looking at, like for example, when Georgia was amassing those recruiting classes, like we were outspending everyone on recruiting,
Right. Right.
like by a significant margin.
Yeah.
We were still profitable, quote unquote profitable. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know what are those Dakota schools invest in to
Yeah.
to have those schools versus the other, their other peers or whatever.
Right. Right.
Um,
Off-season research project.
yeah, no thanks. I'll assign that to key five. Um, the yeah, man, I don't know. The portal, what will change a lot of this and would probably impact the NIL side of things is, if you put your money where your mouth is in terms of contracts, like if you are coming to this school and we're going to pay you X amount of dollars, you're signing for 4 years or 2 years or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you break that contract, now all of a sudden we have to be compensated. There's exit clauses and buyouts and all that kind of stuff, just like in the coaching side of things. Like people talk about, oh, coaches can leave whenever they want. Like, yeah, they can, but there's a buyout that's a part of it too.
Yep.
Whether it's the coach that pays it or the next school that pays it, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, you're talking about, oh, in order to get this player, we have to buy out their contract and they are paying them $4 million. That suddenly becomes less appealing to bring you on in.
Yep.
And now maybe we're going to go and spend that money elsewhere. So it makes the schools actually commit, it makes the players actually commit, and that would make a dominant team. Like
Hmm.
now, all of a sudden, you're making not only just a financial decision, which frankly seems to be the number one driver of everything right now, which is part of the reason why I hate this entire setup and system, is it's literally just a money grab.
Yeah.
Everybody's on a money grab. But if you put everybody's feet to the fire, both the school and the kid, um, I say kid, but these young
Yeah.
men and young women, if you put their feet to the fire to commit on something, now all of a sudden they're going to be looking at, okay, where can I make a decent living and also get developed? Now you're talking about the importance of coaches as opposed to the importance of your bank account. And
Yeah.
that to me is where we need to be moving the sport is how can we get these kids, set them up for life, give them the generational wealth that everybody's talking about. Like,
Mm.
you know, you want to pay them 6 figures or 7 figures or whatever it is to play football here, and you can find boosters that do it. Great. Guess what? You're stuck here for 3 years. Even if you want to go to the NFL, kid, you're stuck here.
Yeah. Well, they are stuck in college for 3 years, but not at
Well,
any college.
whatever.
But no, I know what you mean. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Let's see. Friend
I
of the
hate, I hate
show.
everything. Get off my lawn.
That's okay. Friend of the show, Tim Riley. Um, I stated from early on Carson was no alpha dog, and the team would take that as part of their personality. Unfortunately, it played out much that way. Strong words from friend of the show, Tim Riley. His question: what is your biggest takeaway of how the season results were influenced by some X factor for 2024? Good year, boys. Cheers. I'm gonna go back to we had Roddy Nabulsi on before the season,
Hmm.
and I remember he talked about Georgia's offensive line and how great it was going to be and how talented it was and how deep it was. And I feel like that didn't pan out, be it from injury or whatnot. I mean, we just heard Monroe Freeling just had surgery, right?
Yeah.
Like we
Oh, that
didn't.
was something that we should have talked about.
So
Anyway.
like we didn't know that was maybe no wonder he was struggling against Notre Dame, these kinds of things, right? So to me, it was that like that was the thing. It's like been recently there have been things like, oh, like why does Michigan keep winning the Joe Moore Award? Like Georgia's offensive line is better, these kind of things, and so like it's been a strength. Um, that was that was it to me. Like that was a big difference from what I expected to happen this year and what did happen was the offensive line. So I'll go with that.
Yeah. I mean, football games, particularly in the SEC, are won in the trenches. I felt like that our defensive line was good enough, and particularly when it mattered, was good enough to win the national championship.
Yeah.
Our offensive line was not.
Yeah.
Um, when you have an offensive line that struggles, can't score points, can't extend drives, it makes the defense look poor. For years, we talked about how Bobo didn't have a defense, and he had a defense this year that was manageable. Now the issue is that we haven't had a consistent offensive line for this season.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about Tim's question, and then I'm gonna rant for a minute, just FYI, Jim. Um, because you reminded me of something. I knew that there was some stuff that we should talk about at the beginning. Um, but yeah, I would say that's accurate. Just to, throw something out there that's different. Um, I would say that I was perhaps naively optimistic about not only the running back room, but also the wide receiver room as well.
Hmm.
If you'd have told me before the season that Carson Beck was going to have nearly 700 yards of dropped passes,
Yeah.
I probably would have thought that that was crazy. And that doesn't even count like, yards after catch. That's just like from
Air. Yeah. Yeah. Where they
air,
dropped it.
air
Yeah.
yards.
Yeah.
Um, that is wild, man. Wild.
And yet
If you'd have told me,
he still led the league in like regular season touchdown passes, which is also crazy. Imagine what could have been
yeah,
there. But anyways,
yeah. The running back room was just not suboptimal. Let's say what do you say?
yeah,
It was suboptimal. Throwing a freshman out there, which I think he did great.
yeah,
I would say that based on what we're seeing and that's going on in Mobile right now, and I'll touch on that as part of my rant, but um, I'm watching ETN just absolutely smoke kids. I'm
mm,
watching Arian Smith making significantly contested catches they would make AD Mitchell tear up. Um, and you just wonder like what did our coaching staff do with that talent?
mm,
And asking hard questions about that postseason. Additionally, you find out that the guy that was the starting left tackle, um, that was so obviously struggling in the most important game of the season,
mm,
and our coaching staff for the second year in a row thought that throwing an injured player out there that was very clearly not right was the best option that we had. And we made a change arguably after it was too late. I don't know. We saw them throw Brock and Ladd out there in 23. They very clearly couldn't get the job done in the SEC championship. I question whether or not healthier people would have been able to do better. And then in this situation, we have Freeling, who I guess apparently was really, really hurt in the game. And that is like, okay, now I don't feel as bad dogging on him.
mm,
That's not
right,
his fault. It's the freaking coach's fault. Like, why would you throw him out there?
right,
Like, what were you seeing? I don't know.
yeah,
To me, like, I just, it frustrates the heck out of me to find out some of these things. And it's just like, I'm glad that I did because, the kid didn't deserve it. It's not his fault that the coaches threw him out there when he wasn't ready.
yeah, yeah. Brutal, man, brutal.
Brutal, brutal.
It is
And
brutal.
when we did make a change to someone that was healthier, we did better. But by
Yeah,
that point, significant damage had been done.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm with
It
you.
is what it is.
I'm with you.
So now I'm questioning our offensive coaches even more.
As if it was you were already on bad terms, worse terms.
Yeah. Now I'm showing up at Stacy's door, knocking on the window and holding up a news article. WTF, man.
Oh man. All right.
I'm a step below lighting the torches, Jim.
Okay. Okay. Noted. Noted. Let's see. John Michael D. Remember when football expectations felt like basketball currently does? We'll defer the basketball minute slash segment until Fletcher. But yes, I will say that's just a general comment of just think of where we are with football. We did actually used to feel like this around with football. Um, But then he just added, disappointed slash frustrated the timing and nature of the season ending, but we won the SEC and made the playoff with the backup quarterbacks, first meaningful snaps. Then ended, and this is so true. Then we ended on a perfect game to summarize the whole season. Uh, well said, John Michael D. Well said. I don't have much to add to that. That's kind of perfect.
Yeah. Hey, you remember that time we won the SEC championship and we had no business being in?
Yeah, I know. I know. Chaos got us in. Quarterback got hurt. Uh, Gunner led us there. Just while thinking about his friends, his family, and his cows. So
In many ways, it was like the way that we felt about basketball when we won the SEC championship. We shouldn't have.
hey, all you need is a tornado to hit the building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, quick one on this one. Kurt chimed in and said, "Jim, I owe you some beers. We'll give to your dad." Kurt, I don't know what beers you owe me, but I will gladly accept them. When to deliver to my dad. So thanks, Kurt. Shout out. We'll
I'll have Jim's beers. I know the code.
we'll find out. It's true statement. True statement.
At least I think I do. To go back in my text.
Amazing. Let's see. We think we hit Bobby's or no, we hit Bobby's and we hit Bubby's earlier. Okay, so now we can get to basketball minute, perhaps. All right, Fletcher says, part of me sort of knew when ETN scored in overtime to win the SEC championship game, that would be it. So I really celebrated that moment. While I'm disappointed about the Notre Dame game, I will always enjoy knowing we won that game the way we did. You guys make the season better. Thank you. Man, thank you, Fletcher.
Yes, thank you.
Fletcher has been with us a long time. Was in school, by the way, like when we were there. How did we not know Fletcher in college? We had to figure this out. So yeah,
We'll have to put glasses on it.
let's put glasses on it. Let's do the basketball minute slash segment. Although maybe it's been reduced back to a minute.
I don't know, man. Like I saw everybody. I mean, a lot's happened. Obviously, we got, suboptimal performances on the national stage for some of these high profile games. But then like
Yeah.
we just played South Carolina as of what, yesterday? I
Mhm.
can't remember.
Yeah. That was last night.
And everybody was I was unable to watch the game last night. We were actually at a high school basketball game with my daughter, so was doing that with the kids yesterday. And I just remember seeing text messages flying around that this was awful, like turn this off, get this off my screen, all these different things, and I'm like, oh, we're losing. Well, I don't need to follow this along. I'll just forget about this and erase it from my memory. But then, like when I got back, I saw that we won by what, like 10 points or something,
Yeah, 11. Yeah.
11 points, and I was like, wait, I thought we were losing. Like, what is happening? What am I missing? I get it. Like you win your clunkers, right? It's just like baseball. Sometimes you just have a bad game
I think
or a
something
bad half or whatever.
I know. I was gonna say. I feel like when all that stuff kind of flurried up, it was like there was a point in the first half where like we had been up big and it didn't even really get, I don't know, close. We had them. We led by roughly 10 for most of the second half, and won by 11. Like they got closer than a few times, but we were able to pretty much hold them off. So yeah, I mean there was the 4 game losing streak. I guess it was.
And this was a road game, right?
This was South Carolina was at Georgia.
Oh, it was at home. Okay.
So yeah, I got to come back home. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think frustrating to lose the game to Auburn, even though it wasn't a game we were like supposed to win by any means. But they were out there, their star player, and then like if we made our free throws, I think we win that game.
Yeah,
Even at that,
that was a tough one.
that was a tough one. It was a tough one. So you got that, although even though we still had a chance like right at the end, which was wild.
Yeah.
Then you've got the game. You get the game at Arkansas. That that's a team that Georgia is better than, but it's hard to win on the road in the SEC kind of deal. The wild thing to me there, well, the lead evaporating obviously is wild. Again, missing free throws, wild. But the way it ended at the very end, when like we fouled them, sink the free throw to basically win the game with 1.8 seconds, but then missed the second, got the rebound, and made a layup as a buzzer beater was I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that. That was weird. But at the end of the day, the one thing I'll say with even with that one is when you get to like tournament time and you're seeing like all these teams' resumes, right? You've got the bad losses column. But like, so what are this team's bad losses on their resume? Georgia has zero. Georgia does not have a what is qualified by the committee by all the anything you use to evaluate college basketball. Georgia does not have any quote bad losses. So while the Arkansas was like, you could say it's inexcusable or whatever, those kinds of things, and like emotionally it was a bad loss, but by the criteria the tournament uses, it wasn't. So we don't have any of those. So it's still there. This team can still bounce back. Protect a home court is going to go a long way with these guys. So
Yeah, I feel like the only game that I feel like is just like, oh my gosh, like can we just erase that from our memory? It was the Florida game.
oh that was that one. That one got away from us.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
FTMS.
I went and watched that at a bar with a friend too. That was kind of brutal. Being out and about
Brutal.
and seeing that. I was like, I'm sorry I brought you to a bar to watch this game with me. uh,
Yikes.
but hey, like I said, everything's still in front of them. Protect the home court, and we'll be good. We'll be good. So there it was, the basketball segment.
It's hard to win in the SEC period. From
Dude, the
like the
SEC is
ranking, the rankings is
it's
basically
crazy.
like all SEC.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's an insane league. It's an insane league. It's gotten even tougher. So
Yeah. At what point did the ACC concede that battleground?
yeah, good question. Good question.
Anyway,
Um, all right, let's see. 51-7 GATA. Another great season for y'all. The show definitely adds to the season. How much longer do y'all believe we will see the conference championship games after what we saw this season? To me, it seems like they will be replaced by another playoff game at some point. And by the way, he included a picture of himself doing horns down, or of his hand doing the horns down in the bins with his tweet.
excellent.
I think that's a good point because I kind of just in general feel like it's not they're not going away. Like we can say what we want, that like they didn't matter and all this kind of stuff. But as we say on this podcast, when the question is why, the answer is money. Like I don't see conferences getting rid of them from that money aspect. But brings up a good point of maybe they're incorporated into the playoff
Yeah, I could see that.
somehow. So
Make them mean something.
yeah, yeah,
As of right now, they don't mean jack squat. Um, the yeah, the short answer is I think I kind of gave a spoiler alert tweet to him was, when the CFP is listening to our complaints, they're like holding up stacks of money while they're talking to you on the phone. Like what? Sorry.
right,
Um,
right.
yeah, the answer is always money. The conference championships are never going to go away.
Yeah.
I would like to see them be more important to the overall. Like, for example, I could see them being a play-in for a
Mm-hmm.
tournament of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like, but you got to make them matter. Otherwise, why have them?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I don't see him going away. I don't see him going there. Yeah, maybe something could be tweaked, but I don't. I have a hard time seeing them completely going away, regardless of what happens. So
I joked all season long. I joked all season long that there's a scenario where you treat it like the spring game. Um, I think that Ohio State, I'm not saying that they did this, but there's certainly a body of evidence that showcases that they didn't exactly play their hardest to get there, because of how they performed when they did get to the playoff. Um,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. That's the conspiracy theory is that they threw the Michigan game so that they didn't have to go to the conference championship.
yeah. Again, hard to say that they threw it. I'm with you, but not hard to say they benefited from losing that game. I'll say
Yeah.
that. So, and I don't like that.
Yes.
Get off my lawn.
Also.
Get off my
Yeah. Yeah.
lawn. All right, let's see. Herman Wood No relation that we know of. Herman Wood, what was your favorite bourbon from this season's shows? Herman tags the podcast weekly. He does his Bulldog bourbons, I think, like every Tuesday or so.
Love it.
So
Hopefully
definitely
enjoyed the bourbon segment.
definitely enjoy those. I think I have mine.
I definitely have mine.
Okay. I'll go.
I'll let you go first.
Mine is just around what happened. Mine is yeah, okay, so from the season shows. There were 2 episodes. In general, I try to mix it up. There was one bourbon that I had twice on a preview episode, and it was because of the opponent. The opponent we played twice. So I'm gonna go with Long Branch because it led to not 1 but 2 wins over Texas.
All right, all right, all right. I like that. Yeah, mine's gonna be the High West whiskey that I got, the store pick. That is one of my is the only bourbon I feel like that I have purchased in recent memory where it was a single barrel that I went back for seconds.
Hmm.
Gifted it. Hog Dog, hope you enjoyed it. Joel, hope you got some of his as well. I know that we enjoyed that bottle around the fire of I can't remember the game. Was it? I can't remember which game it was. Um, Again, like just highlight what I was talking about before, the best parts. I don't even remember which game it was for,
Yeah.
but I know exactly what we did and how we enjoyed the time
Yeah.
spent.
Yeah.
So yeah, the High West Syrah finish store pick from Hops Grain and Vine was fantastic.
Nice. Love it. Love it.
Herman, I owe you an email, sorry.
Nice. All right. Um, we have one more question, or should I say, set of questions.
We do.
Oh my God! My God, a freshman.
Trying to put glasses on it.
1980, woo, brother.
Take that, Notre Dame.
It is time for coaches over unders. I know there's usually like a name with these. These are just coaches over unders. Postseason, however we call it. Season review over unders. Shout out Coach Chilwell for letting us have one more ride. Although the standings are final.
I was about to say, hold on a
No,
second.
we're not changing anything. I changed.
Is this the photo finish?
Come on now. Come on now. All right. Over under starting off, I guess doesn't matter. I'll go first. I won. Haha. Over under Georgia men's basketball NCAA tournament seed. Over under 9.5. Man, if it was so, if you had asked me this the last time we recorded, I would have said under, meaning like or whatever. I will say better seed than 9.5 because I thought we were heading towards a 8 or 9 seed. Kind of hard to see that right now. I could see us being like a 10 ish. It's kind of what feels right now. So I guess I'll go over.
Yeah. Oh, over meaning like
Bigger number.
Seed?
Bigger
number. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go over.
Okay. All right. Over to you. Although I guess it doesn't matter so much. UGA Spring Sports SEC titles over under 1.5.
I'll go over.
Over.
Go Dogs.
I'm gonna be optimistic and go over as well. I was always a big tennis. Like we could get 2. Like they could both win it. It's possible. We'll see.
Yeah.
Let's see. Over under Georgia football players drafted. Over under 6.5. I did not do any research on this.
I can do some quick numbers here.
It feels like it should be over.
3. Yeah, I'll go over on that.
Okay. Yeah, we're agreeing a lot. I'm gonna go over. Over under Wood family trips to Fripp. Over under 3.5.
Wood family is all encompassing, by the way.
See, this is where yes, we have a clarifying question. Does it include Taricos? Are Taricos include what? I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Maiden name Wood family.
I would say, yeah, because like if we're just talking like Kim and I, like our family.
Let's go with that. I feel like that's the intention.
Okay, so if it's that, no, it's probably under. It's probably under, but that's a good line.
Good line.
Just around the under.
Push.
I think. If you expand to all of the woods that frequent Fripp, my parents are there right now. So like
I was gonna say,
slam the over.
slam the over.
Slam the over if they're included. All right, round it out. Powell family out of town trips for sports tournaments over under 3.5.
Clarifying question.
Mm.
Out of town, does that include like surrounding cities outside of just Marietta? I assume that he means like out of state. It's definitely gonna be under if it's
But
out of state. If
what
it's out
was
of town,
where was the one you were over by like Kirby G's or whatever that one time? Was it like McDonough?
yeah, it was in McDonough. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. That's out. Is that? Well, let's say if we included stuff like that, would it be over?
slam the over.
Okay. Just that's my clarifying question.
Because baseball every weekend is the tournament.
Okay.
Out quote unquote out of town.
Yeah.
But it's not like overnight. When I think of out of town trips,
Overnight.
I'm thinking like overnight, like weekend trips.
Yeah. But it's also like you can kind of like fiddle with that. Like, so for example, when Lily played soccer, like she would have like a regular season game in like Boone or in like Asheville. And so we would just go there for the day. But I would consider that out of town, personally.
You
But
do consider that out of town? So your interpretation is that the McDonough tournament is an out of town.
I don't know. Now I need to do mileage distance comparisons of Concord, North Carolina to Boone as compared to Marietta, Georgia to McDonough.
I mean, it's basically an hour. Like most of
Yeah.
if I can drive there in an hour, like,
Yeah,
I don't
that
consider to
doesn't
be
count.
out.
Okay, yeah, that's not
doesn't
out of town.
count.
That's not out of town. Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll say under. We'll say under.
See,
I'm
like going to like Chattanooga is like, I think it's what 3 hours or something like that. Like that's out of town.
That's
It's
out
like
of town.
a weekend trip.
Okay.
I think that they may be going to Charleston for an end of season tournament, but I don't know that we're gonna go.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Nice.
They for some reason like, dude, whenever they plan these trips, like that particular tournament is like July 4th weekend. Like whole like instantly like one of the most expensive trips that you can make. Like
Right.
Why
Yeah.
do we have to go to the beach on like my wife is like, I do not want to spend 4th of July in a baseball park in the middle of July.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, who came up with this idea?
Yeah. Well, so TBD.
Okay.
I would say smash the under.
Okay. Shout out Coach Trill. Let's see. The final tally was I won the over unders. I was
Is this a victory lap? Didn't we
No, because we're about to get this for you.
Uh,
61-51. You're 56. You were 500, which is good. But then you had the single pick victory in the pick'em, which I still think is so amazing because like it could have been completely tied there if I had picked one game differently.
Yeah.
So the Continental Belt.
It could have been a landslide had I picked better.
Well, could have been.
Devil's advocate.
Could have been. All right. Shout out Coach Trill. Thank you as always for sending those. Always a good time. Oh, and did I say as always how you finished it out? He said as always it's been an honor. Dogs by 90.
Yes.
Always.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, Coach.
For sure. All right. I think you had kind of a running list in your head. Did we hit all your things that you had?
No, I think we kind of decided we've spent enough time talking to the people. We're going to, I think, do a wrap up recruiting episode.
Yeah, I think that's the plan.
Housekeeping, next steps. We do have some ideas for other content in the off season, so stay dialed in.
trying to remember who did we have this conversation with? Oh yes, shout out Ruse Dixie Dog. We were talking to him about what was it? It was about something we had talked about. It was about the whole like field goal bouncing off the ground and going through the crossbar. That
Oh,
conversation,
nice.
and we were talking about that, and then anyways, we got through it. Which again, the refs got it right. At any rate, and then he said something to the effect of like, hope you guys, or like, can we expect off season content? And I think I was like, you can expect more than last season. I think that's what we're willing to commit to. We there was a mega hiatus last year. I think we're planning to not have quite as long of a break this year.
Yes.
Plan. That's the plan.
Yes.
Cool. Cool. Okay. We did say though, I know this is a college football Georgia podcast, but Super Bowl picks. You care to make a Super Bowl pick?
Oh yeah, Super Bowl. So obviously we had a high probability of having a Georgia player playing in the Super Bowl again. I think
Mm-hmm.
it was like 25 or 26 years in a row that we've had
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
player in the Super Bowl, which is awesome. Um, I definitely am rooting for the Eagle Dogs. Just based on sheer number of UGA alumni and how cool the message will be from a national scale to have that advertised out there as this is the defense that won the Super Bowl. They all went to Georgia, basically.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that would be awesome. I think that would be a cool. I'd like to see the cool marketing assets and recruiting assets that come out of a situation like that. I feel like if the Chiefs win, like yay, we some UGA players won, and I can't even remember like I did look at this, like who's on
It's
the
Malik.
Chiefs.
It's Malik Herring is on the
Herring,
Chiefs,
okay.
and then McCole Hardman. But I don't know like if he's playing. Is he hurt or something? I'm not. I'm honestly not sure. Um, because like last week they had a graphic of like the NFC or the championship round. Um, and like Hardman wasn't on that graphic, but he was on the graphic this week for Super Bowl. Like I'm talking about the
Um,
graphic that the school put out. So I
I don't
don't
know. I
know.
feel like a Chiefs win will taint anything associated with UGA being associated with that Super Bowl because of the Mahomes and the Taylor Swift situation and just everybody I talk to basically can't stand the Chiefs. So unless you're just an Eagles hater or whatever, like I feel like everyone is rooting against the Chiefs for like the same reason that people rooted against Tom Brady or whatever.
Right? Yeah, I think that's fair.
I will
Um,
say, I will say that just to rant a little bit about the playoffs and feed and stoke the fire of like, is it rigged? That game against the Bills was kind of like a turning point for me. Like just much like the Notre Dame game was a turning point for me for the Bobo situation. I there's definitely some smoke in that this is rigged fire situation because that interception that I thought was an interception before it was ruled a completion, and if it was a completion, I think it was a incompletion, but you're probably gonna bust out the rule book on me. Um, but I thought it was an interception when I first saw it, and then the fourth down conversion that
mhm.
wasn't, but really was when you looked at it at all the different angles. I don't know. That was wild, man.
I'll say to you what I said to at the watch party that I was at for that game. So I didn't like it when the Bills went for two the first time, and that forced them to have to go for two again the second time. And then Kansas City, and they didn't get it either time. And then Kansas City ends up going for two later to extend the lead to 3 points. That wouldn't have happened. Like they never would have gone for two had Buffalo been kicking extra points. So that game ends tied in regulation if Buffalo isn't chasing points. So my counter to that is again, I'm just not a go. I'm not like this whole like the analytics say go for two. Like I I want to get back to common sense football thinking. I do not like going for two unless you need to. And I think this is a perfect example of it. So my stance on that game is Buffalo got caught chasing points. So I don't know. That's my stance.
But also they converted it.
Hey, keep control what you can control. And I
Keep the
feel like
main thing the main thing.
I feel like there were things I could control that they didn't. So that's one
Yeah.
thing.
Speaking of things that you can control, I will say that the clinching, like well, the virtual clinching play that the Chiefs dialed up
Mm,
to get P Ryan, which holy cow, whatever. To get P Ryan in a position to convert that, to convert it to ice the game basically. That if you go to Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and run a search for the final play in that game and look at a breakdown for it, it is a work of art. And if you watch it, you're probably also going to think like, damn, why can't we have some plays like that, man?
right. Yeah.
And then you'll get mad about Bobo all over again.
Uh, too funny. I'm gonna
But
say
it is a work of art. It is a work of art.
all that to say I'm gonna go with the Eagles as well, and that's more of a same reason as you. I want that for those for the Philly dogs.
It's been
And
nice. It's been nice seeing Nolan Smith as like I don't know. I maybe it's just me and the media that I consume, but I feel like that Nolan Smith has kind of been hoisted as like the spokesperson for the Eagles in post game conferences and stuff. So like
mhm,
I don't know. I feel like he's always in front of a camera talking about Georgia, and when he's doing that, it's better for us
yeah, dude, they have
for
like
so many reasons.
the Eagles have like a weekly like video podcast thing, and like a few weeks ago, like the whole thing was about the Georgia guys. It was like all of them. It was like a 15,
I
20 minute
mean,
ad for Georgia. It was amazing.
yeah, I mean, it's basically been an entire season of advertisements from them. Like their entire social media. Go look at their social feed. And it's like Georgia, Georgia, Georgia.
Yeah,
They go back to the well for for good reason.
right, right.
Eat your heart out, Falcons.
Oh my gosh, don't get me started. Mm, brutal. All right. Uh, like I said, the season was a success. That's what I'm gonna say. I feel like we had a success. SEC champions. I got my hat. Uh, Good friendship and fellowship at the tailgates, as you said. Um,
Here, here.
Heck of a year, and we head into the off season, and better never rest. I know Kirby's gonna and crew continue to GATA all throughout the off season.
Better never rest. I've got some positive vibes that we can talk through on a future episode, and I look forward to recording as many times as Jim will allow us to record in the off season, in the interim, because I blame him for not recording last year.
Fair, tough, but fair and accurate. Amazing.
Factual facts.
Facts. That's a
Facts emerge. Facts emerge.
Facts emerge. Too good.
Awesome. Well, go Hoop Dogs. Go Spring. Go Diamond Dogs. We've got a new stadium to kind of look forward to, a new field to look forward to.
Oh yeah,
Um,
true.
that's something that's been in development. Go Spring Sports and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.